Firstly, we will look at the title, Ode to Autumn. Ode means a lyric poem, so the title basically means a lyric poem about autumn. Ode is also used to praise a subject in which for this poem is about autumn. This poem is written by John Keats, a famous English romantic poet during Romantic period. He was one of the main figures of the second generation of Romantic poets, along with Lord Byron and Percy Shelley. His reputation grew after his death. At the end of the 19th century, he had become one of the most beloved of all English poets. He also had a significant influence on a diverse range of poets and writers. For example, George Louis Borges stated that his first encounter with Keats was the most significant literary experience of his life. He has made a significant contribution to the Romantic period, and many of his odes are classics of the Romantic period. Then, what is this poem about? To solve the question and better understand the content, we did a summary. In the first stanza, Keats focuses on the sights of autumn, including ripening fruits such as apple, swelling gourds, hazel shells, and blooming flowers. Autumn is described as a conspirator working with the sun to bring perfect ripeness to the fruits and causing the flowers to bloom. The second stanza, the focus is on the characteristic activities of autumn: threshing, reaping, gleaning, and cider making. The autumn is described as a person who takes part in these activities. Third stanza, Keats concentrates on the sounds of autumn, produced by insects, animals, and birds. Here, autumn can be seen as a musician, and the music is as nice as that of the spring. After knowing the content, we need to go further into the theme of the poem. In this poem, John Keats showed the process of life by describing the three different aspects of autumn, which are its fruitfulness, its labor, and its ultimate decline. In the first stanza, words or phrases used to describe the abundance of autumn can be easily found. Fruit with ripeness, swell the gourd, and maturing sun are some of the examples, which all show how the early autumn brings ripeness to the fruits. In the second stanza, characteristic activities of autumn such as gleaning and reaping are clearly shown. This can be seen from the words like gleaner, cider press, and half-reaped. These activities are the following process after the ripeness of fruit, since people normally start labor after the maturing of fruits or other crops. In the last stanza, phrases like soft dying day give readers the sense of the end of autumn. After the abundance of autumn and its daily activities, here comes the death of the season. This is quite similar to the process of life: growing, working, and dying. The writer describes this process in a natural and beautiful way, as at the end he still wrote about the music of autumn and the wish for the coming spring. Thus, we can see John Keats' attitude towards the process of life, which is accepting. This poem shows that John Keats, as a romantic poet, respects nature by respecting the process of life from which no creature can escape. He also encouraged people to respect nature.
In line 1 of stanza 1, the introduction of the poem is done using description. The poet uses the word mist to inform readers that autumn is the season where there will be light drizzle. The word mellow gives an image as to how the fruits in autumn have reached maturity and are fully ripe. Mellow fruitfulness also tells us that autumn is a season of harvest. Season of mist and mellow fruitfulness is also used in connection with the use of maturing sun, which encourage the maturity of the ideas of autumn harvest and the fruits. There is also alliteration between the word mist and mellow. The second line tells us that the sun is growing older and that it is no longer in its prime like how it is its hottest during the summer. In the third line, personification is used as the poet shows the autumn's friendship with the sun, and the use of the word conspiring also shows us how the poet compares the sun and autumn to humans. The effect of this is that it helps readers understand what the poet is implying. The word bless also shows us the divinity of autumn and how it is like a god. There is also alliteration in this line between the words him and how. In the fourth line, it tells us that the trees and vines are full of fruits that have matured. In the fifth line, similarly, the use of the word bend shows the great number of apples that have matured during autumn, which typifies the season. It also shows how the trees are so full of apples that it bends due to its intense weight. This abundance is further developed in the subsequent lines with the words swell, plump, more, and overbrimmed. In the eighth line, the phrase budding more implies that nuts, which are the sweet kernel, will also be fully ripe in the future, or rather in the next autumn. In the ninth line, and still more, suggests the overwhelming number of flowers and the continuity of nature, as the bees will continue to pollinate the flowers and will continue to make their honey. The 10th line tells us that the bees have the impression that flowers will always bloom. However, flowers wither in autumn and bloom in spring and summer. There is also a metaphor in the phrase later flowers for the bees will never cease. In the 11th line, the clammy cells refers to the honeycombs of the bees' hives. All in all, stanza 1 depicts beautiful visions of fruits and flowers during the season autumn. The author expresses his feeling of sensuality towards autumn through the use of monosyllabic words such as fill, to the core, bend, and swell the gourd, to list a few. The use of monosyllabic words also shows the simplicity of the poem, in which romantics commonly use so that the message behind the words can be captured and understood by the masses of the public. Stanza 1 is also where the poet points out and introduces the idea that summer brings great abundance of food, such as fruits and nuts, only to bring about the death of such food in the subsequent stanzas when autumn has reached beyond its prime age.
Personification is seen throughout this whole stanza, as autumn is referred to as a person who carries out the characterized activities of autumn. The poet's purpose of using personification is to allow the reader to see the season of autumn through the poet's eyes. In line 11, the poet is showing the parallel between God and autumn. As all of us know, God is always watching over us and surrounding us. Similarly, the poet is implying that autumn is always around us. In addition, this line is a rhetorical question which suggests that everyone has seen the abundance of autumn. It is clear that autumn is the season for harvesting, gathering, and preparing for winter. Store here refers to the ripeness of the crops. There are images of lack of enthusiasm in lines 13 to 14. Autumn is being depicted as sitting careless, and with the lack of energy being described about the season in this stanza. Both metaphor and personification is being used from lines 18 to 20. Autumn is being compared to gleaner, who picks up the remaining stalks of the grain on the floor. Laden head shows that autumn is carrying out human action, which is putting her head down, just like a gleaner looking out for grain. In line 21, the poet describes that the last apples are pressed to cider, which indicates that the last lives are squeezed out of the autumn. In the final line of stanza 2, last oozing hours by hours, shows that the days of autumn are running out. Just like in the last line of stanza 1, it gives off a very depressing feeling, like how death is approaching. In stanza 2, autumn is personified as a harvest who across the brook and look at cider press. This stanza shows how death is coming from the description of the remaining works, such as the furrows that is half ripped and the apple cider that is still being pressed. In the following line, from the phrase hair soft lifted, we can make a guess that autumn is written as a woman, not only because the seasons were traditionally personified as female in Europe art, but like a mother who gives birth to fruits and crops and help them grow. In addition, through the description of the wind, we can imagine how the hair is being blown by it. In line 16, the lack of energy is continued with the word half-ripped. The following line also depicts the lack of energy and enthusiasm through the word.
In stanza 3, from line 23 to line 24, the poet uses rhetorical question to remind the readers that spring has gone. It also wants to infer that spring's wish of growing has already been achieved in autumn. Furthermore, we can also think that the poet compares spring, which is the season of a rebirth time, to the autumn, which is the season of a harvesting and dying. From line 25 to line 26, the soft dying day is the very first evidence of which death is coming, which has been aforementioned. The word soft, however, implies that maybe the fact that every day dies is harmless and very natural. From line 27 to line 28, the poet wrote a willful choir of the small gnats mourn. The poet uses personification of comparing gnats to humans, because in reality, only humans mourn when one of their people pass away. The poet is freezing time between lives and death, and seen by the use of words such as aloft, sinking, lives or dies. In line 30, poet also emphasizes the autumn caused the death for the now full-grown lambs. But why does the poet prefer to use lambs instead of sheep? Because the purpose of the poet to use lambs here is to emphasize the lambs were those which were born in spring. It also makes a contrast between spring and autumn, since the lambs were born in spring and are slaughtered in autumn. Furthermore, this line answers the question in line 23. The spring song disappeared, since the creature which born in spring slaughtered in autumn. Line 32. Redbreast is referred to as a bird, which usually is the foreshadow to winter. The poet wants to infer the readers that the autumn is going to pass and the winter is coming. In line 33, it is also a sign that autumn is almost over and winter is approaching as the swallow. Unlike stanza 1 and stanza 2, stanza 3 gives a feeling of sadness. Keats describes the small gnats mourn in a willful choir, the lambs bleat, the redbreast whistles, and gathering swallows twitter. All these are the symbols of dying autumn and the coming winter, and gives a sense of unpleasure, which is opposite to stanza 1, which shows the pleasure of the autumn. So, Keats combines both the happiness of autumn and the sadness of autumn to compose this poem.